The Washington quarter is one of the most widely recognized coins in the history of U.S. currency, and a 1965 issue represents a turning point not just in the series, but in the entire landscape of American coinage. To most people, a 1965 quarter was just another piece of pocket change, used to grab a cup of coffee, pay for a toll, or drop into an arcade machine. But to collectors today, this particular year is significant. It was the year the United States Mint made a historic change, one that still impacts coins circulating today. The obverse of the coin continues with John Flanagan classic portrait of George Washington, a design first introduced in 1932 to mark the bicentennial of Washington's birth. Washington's bust faces left, his expression strong and steady, symbolizing the first president's enduring role in American history. The word liberty arches across the top, while I in God we trust appears to the left of Washington's neck, and the date 1965 rests below his bust. On the reverse. The design is equally bold and simple. A heraldic eagle stands with wings outstretched, clutching arrows of defense, framed by olive branches of peace. Above the eagle's head is the motto E pluribus unum, while United States of America curve along the rim above and quarter dollar anchors the bottom. This powerful design had been a mainstay since the series began, and in 1965, it continued to embody the strength and unity of the nation. But what makes the 1965 Washington quarter different is not just the design, but the metal beneath it. For decades, U.S. quarters have been struck in 90% silver. However, by the mid-1960s, the rising price of silver created a crisis. People began hoarding silver coins, pulling them out of circulation, melting them down, and holding onto them as an investment. The mint faced a shortage of circulating coinage because the public simply wasn't spending silver quarters anymore. Something had to change. In 1965, the U.S. Mint made the bold decision to remove silver entirely from a quarter. The new composition was a clad mixture, a core of pure copper sandwiched between layers of a copper-nickel alloy. The result was a coin that looked similar to silver, but carried no intrinsic precious metal value. This was a massive shift, and collectors today recognize 1965 as the very first year of the modern clad quarter era. Of course, with such a historic change, there were also quirks and rarities. Millions upon millions of 1965 quarters were produced, over 1.8 billion in total. That staggering mintage means most are common and worth only face value if worn. But the real treasure lies in the unusual survivors. One of the most famous is the 1965 quarter struck on a silver planchet. Because 1964 was supposed to be the final year for silver quarters, the mint transitioned in 1965, but a few leftover silver planchets accidentally got fed into the presses. The result is a 1965 dated quarter struck in 90% silver rather than the new clad composition. These transitional errors are incredibly rare and highly prized, with examples fetching thousands of dollars at auction. In fact, one such coin graded mint state recently sold for over $7,000, and others in gem condition have sold for even more. But silver strikes aren't the only valuable varieties. There are off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing and the blank planchet shows. Dramatic off-center 1965 quarters can sell for hundreds. Double strikes are another error to look for, with overlapping or repeated design elements creating fascinating and collectible oddities. Broad strikes, where the coin expands beyond its normal collar and appears stretched, also appear for this year. And then there are die clashes and die cracks, with the minting equipment left behind ghostly outlines or raised lines across the coin surfaces. Collectors love these errors because they're physical evidence of the minting process gone awry. Even in normal circulation strikes, condition matters. Most 1965 quarters show heavy wear. Washington's hair detail fades, the eagle's feathers flatten, and the luster disappears. But in mint-state grades with sharp detail and strong luster, they become scarcer. Top-graded examples in MS-66 or higher can sell for hundreds, and those few in MS-67 or beyond are true condition rarities. Appreciate the importance of this coin. You also have to consider the cultural backdrop of 1965. The country was going through immense change, civil rights movements, space exploration, and shifting politics. While people were focused on bigger issues, the mint's decision to remove silver from coinage may have seemed small at the time. But in hindsight, it marked the end of an era. The silver quarter was gone, and in its place was a coin that looked similar but carried no intrinsic precious metal value. For collectors today, that makes the 1965 Washington quarter a symbol of transition, a marker of history you can hold in your hand. Think about it this way. Billions of these were struck, yet most people spent them without hesitation. They bought gas, groceries, or a movie ticket. And yet a few special ones, the silver planchettes, the high-grade survivors, the Ms. Strikes, escaped into the world. Those few became treasures waiting to be discovered decades later. Imagine finding one of your change today, a coin worth hundreds or even thousands hiding among ordinary quarters. That's the thrill of coin collecting. The idea that extraordinary value can hide in plain sight. The 1965 Washington quarter is not just another coin. It's the beginning of a new chapter in American coinage, the end of silver circulating freely, and the start of the clad era that continues to this day. Collectors chase them not because they are rare in number, but because of what they represent, and because the rare errors and high-grade examples hold real value. The next time you come across a 1965 quarter, take a moment to look closer. Is it clad or silver? Is it off-center, doubled, or unusually sharp in detail? It might just be a piece of history that's worth far more than 25 cents. And now I'll leave you with a big question. Comment if you have one. The 1983 P. Washington $quarter coin is one of those fascinating pieces of U.S. coinage history that often slips through the cracks until collectors take a second look. At first glance, it might appear like just another quarter from pocket change, a coin that went through vending machines, phone booths, or toll booths across America. But the truth is, the 1983 P. Washington quarter is more than just a common coin. It tells a story of scarcity, minting challenges, and surprising collector value, and it has earned a special place in numismatic history. The obverse of the coin features the familiar portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan, a design that had been in use since 1932. Washington's bust faces left, his hair tied back in a colonial-style queue, with the word Liberty arching overhead. To the left of Washington's neck appears the national motto, "In God We Trust," while the date, 1983, is placed at the bottom. To the right is the small P mint mark, showing that this coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. The reverse displays the powerful heraldic eagle, wings outstretched, clutching arrows of defense, and perched upon a bundle of olive branches symbolizing peace. Above the eagle's head is the Latin motto, E pluribus unum, while United States of America and $quarter form a ring around the design that on paper, the coin seems like an ordinary issue. Over 673 million of them were minted in Philadelphia, which sounds like a staggering number. But here's where the story gets interesting. In 1982 and 1983, the U.S. Mint stopped producing mint sets for collectors due to budget constraints. That decision may not have seemed like a big deal at the time, but it had enormous consequences for the 1983 P quarter. Normally, mint sets provide collectors with high-quality examples of each year's coinage. Without those sets, the only way to get a pristine 1983 P quarter was directly from circulation, where coins were immediately subject to scratches, nicks, and heavy wear. As a result, finding a truly high-grade 1983 P. Washington quarter is incredibly difficult today. This scarcity and top condition make the 1983 P quarter a condition rarity. In lower circulated grades, the coin is worth face value, just 25 cents. But in higher mint state grades with sharp detail and strong luster, the story changes completely. Collectors have bid aggressively for these coins in auctions, driving prices far beyond what most people expect. For example, an exceptional mint state 67 example of the 1983 P quarter has fetched more than $1,500 at auction, and values continue to climb as collectors realize just how hard these coins are to find in pristine condition. But it's not just about grade. Errors and varieties also play a role in making the 1983 P quarter special. Like many modern coins, some examples show off-center strikes, double strikes, or broad strikes, where the coin's design is stretched beyond its normal rim. There are even examples with dramatic die cracks or clashes, leaving raised lines or ghost-like impressions across the surfaces. These errors transform an ordinary quarter into a collector's prize, with some selling for hundreds of dollars, depending on the severity and eye appeal. Another fascinating aspect of the 1983 P quarter is its role in U.S. coinage history. By the early 1980s, the mint had fully transitioned into the copper-nickel-clad coinage era, which began in 1965. But the suspension of mint sets during these 2 years highlighted just how dependent collectors had become on official mint products. Without those sets, an entire generation of coins, like the 1983 P quarter, entered circulation with no preserved stockpile of uncirculated examples. That unintentional scarcity is why collectors chase them so passionately today. Think about the irony. Billions of quarters have been minted in the United States, and most people assume coins from the 1980s are still common and worth nothing more than face value. Yet hidden within those billions is a coin like the 1983 P quarter, which, under the right conditions, becomes a rare and valuable prize. The idea that a quarter struck in 1983 and tucked away in someone's drawer or coin jar could be worth hundreds or even thousands is exactly what makes coin collecting so thrilling. Auction houses have repeatedly demonstrated the demand for this coin. Collectors who recognize the rarity of high-grade 1983 P quarters compete fiercely when one appears. The best examples, certified by grading services like PCGS or NGC, are the ones that command top prices. And while most people overlook the coin, those who know its story understand that it represents a hidden gem in modern numismatics. So, what's the takeaway here? The 1983 P Washington $quarter coin is not just a piece of pocket change. It's a symbol of how decisions made at the U.S. Mint can ripple through time and create scarcity where none was intended. It's a coin that teaches collectors to look closer, to appreciate the small details, and to recognize that value often hides in plain sight. The next time you come across a 1983 quarter, don't dismiss it as ordinary. Look for that small P mint mark. Check the surfaces carefully. Is it unusually sharp? Does it show strong luster? Could it be a rare mint state example that survived decades of circulation? Or maybe it's an error coin with a unique story of its own. It just might be worth far more than 25 cents to... Oh, now, I'll leave you with this thought. Do you have a 1983 P Washington $quarter in your collection? Or maybe sitting unnoticed in a coin jar home? Take a look, because you never know what kind of treasure you might be holding. And as always, comment if you have one. The 1967 U.S. Washington $quarter coin is one of those fascinating pieces of American coinage history that many people overlook at first glance. To most, it seems like an ordinary quarter, one of the millions that passed through hands in gas stations, grocery stores, and vending machines during the late 1960s. But when you take a closer look, you realize that the 1967 Washington quarter carries a unique story tied to an important moment in U.S. coin history, a story of change, transition, and hidden treasures that collectors today still find incredibly exciting. On the obverse of the coin, we see John Flanagan's iconic design of George Washington's profile. Facing left, his hair tied back in a colonial-style queue. Above him is the word liberty. To the left of his neck is the phrase, "I in God we trust," and at the bottom sits the year, 1967. The reverse features the majestic heraldic eagle with wings spread wide, perched upon a bundle of arrows, symbolizing America's readiness for defense, while olive branches beneath it represent peace. Around the reverse design, you see United States of America and $quarter, with the pluribus unum placed above the eagle's head. What makes the 1967 Washington quarter so significant is not only its design, but also the historical context. This coin was minted during a very unusual time in American numismatic history. Just 2 years earlier, in 1965, the United States Mint had eliminated silver from circulating dimes and quarters, replacing them with copper-nickel-clad coins due to the rising cost of silver. At the same time, the Mint also made the unprecedented decision to stop using mint marks altogether from 1965 through 1967. Why? Because coin collecting was so popular during the early 1960s that people were hoarding coins with mint marks, which created shortages in circulation. The Mint wanted to discourage hoarding, so for those 3 years, quarters bore no P, D, or S mint marks at all. This means that no matter where your 1967 quarter was struck, Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, it looks the same. That lack of mint marks gives the 1967 issue its own unique character and place in history. Now, while hundreds of millions of these quarters were struck, the real excitement comes when you talk about error coins and high-grade examples. Because the Mint was producing massive numbers to keep up with demand, quality control sometimes slipped, and error coins slipped into circulation. So 1967 quarters can be found with off-center strikes, double strikes, broad strikes, or dramatic die breaks that make them stand out. These errors are the coins that collectors eagerly search for, because they turn a common piece of pocket change into something rare and valuable. Depending on the type of error and its condition, these can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars at auction. And then there are the high-grade, mint state examples. Remember, during this period, the mint did not produce traditional proof sets or mint sets for collectors in the same way as before. Instead, they issued what were called special mint sets, or SMS coins, which were struck with extra care and show sharper details and smoother surfaces. A 1967 quarter from one of these special mint sets, graded highly by services like PCGS or NGC, can be worth a lot more than face value. For instance, pristine SMS examples graded MS, 67 or MS, 68 have brought in impressive prices at auction, some exceeding $2,000 or more because of their rarity in such fine condition. Imagine this: a coin minted over half a century ago, meant to be just a simple 25 cents for everyday use, now commanding thousands because it survived in flawless condition or because of a unique error during its creation. That's the magic of coin collecting. It's not just about metal, but about the story, the rarity, and the chance that something so ordinary could secretly be extraordinary. Collectors today know the 1967 quarter as a coin worth checking carefully. The majority in circulation are worth only face value, but the gems, the errors, the SMS examples, and the coins that manage to remain untouched for decades are the ones that bring excitement to auctions and collector showcases. Auction houses have recorded numerous sales where these coins fetch surprising amounts, showing just how much demand there is for high-quality or unusual 1967 quarters. The historical significance also adds another layer. The fact that this coin was minted during a time when mint marks were deliberately left off makes it a fascinating piece for anyone interested in U.S. coinage. It reflects a moment when the mint was trying to solve problems caused by public behavior, hoarding, and economic changes. Owning one of these coins isn't just about the design. It's about holding onto a piece of history from a turbulent but pivotal time in coinage the next time you come across a 1967 Washington quarter, don't just think of it as pocket change. Look closer. Is it unusually sharp, possibly an SMS example? Does it show signs of an error, like being off-center or doubled? Could it be one of those rare gems that collectors are willing to pay hundreds or thousands for at auction? The possibilities are exciting, and that's exactly why collectors keep a keen eye out for this particular year. And now, I'll leave you with this question. Do you have a 1967 Washington quarter-dollar coin in your collection, or maybe sitting unnoticed in a jar at home? Go check your coins, because you never know what you might find. Comment if you have one.